Welcome to my first ever reading vlog. I really wanted to read some romance books. Although I usually go for contemporary fiction, I noticed that I have a lot of historical romances. I don't know why, but this is a great chance for me to actually read them. And if you are a fan of historical romance, or if you are thinking of getting into the genre, I hope that this video will be helpful. I don't know exactly what books I will read, so I will keep the suspense for now and let this whole video be a surprise. The only thing that I should mention is that the vlog will be spoiler free, so don't worry if you haven't read any of the books that I will be reading. And another thing that you should know is that it will probably take me a few weeks to finish this vlog because I'm a slow reader and it usually takes me a week to finish one book, so I don't want this whole video to be only about one book. I mean, you will not know it, but we'll spend several weeks together. I will let you enjoy the video, and since this is my first attempt in filming a reading vlog, feel free to let me know what you thought of it. That's it. Let's go straight ahead to the first romance book that I'll read. Hello, it's Monday, the 22nd of January, and I wanted to let you know that I've started reading Before the Rains by Dina Djeferis. I've started reading this book yesterday and I've read a bit today, and I'm glad to inform you that I've finished chapter 8, which means that I'm on page 103. So let me tell you a little bit about this book. It is a third-person narration, which I'm not a huge fan of, at least for this book, since we get the story from Elisa's perspective. I just find it a weird choice. I cannot really justify it in my mind yet. Our protagonist is Elisa. Elisa is 28 years old and she's a photographer, and she was sent to Rajputana, I'll have the name written here, in India. This is an Indian princely state which is under the British rule. She was sent there by the British government to take photos of the Indian royal family so that she could capture life in this part of the empire, and she is to stay in India for a whole year. And the year is 1930, so it is very unusual for a woman to have a job and to be trusted with such an important project. And this is something that it is actually mentioned in the book. This is a historical romance, so we absolutely need to take into account how life was back then. It is important to say that we learn from the prologue of the book that this was not Elisa's first time in India. Her father was working for the British government and he was based in India. I'm not sure if Eliza was born in India, but she had definitely lived there when she was little. But something happened, I'm not going to spoil what, but she and her family moved to England when she was 10 years old, and now as a 28-year-old woman she comes back to take this job. I really enjoy all the politics that we only get glimpses of for now, but I hope that since our characters start to really get to know each other and to open up, that we'll get to see how they deal with this oppressive political situation, because we have the Indian royalty, but they are controlled by the British. Something that I found very interesting is that Jay's brother should be called a king, but because this Indian state is under the British rule, the title of king and queen is used only for the British king and queen, so the title of Jay's brother is prince. I really want to see our characters think or express openly their views and thoughts about this Indian state being controlled and oppressed by the British. I would hope that at the end the Indian people would get to take control of their country, but I don't know if we're going into that direction, because for now our royal characters seem to want to avoid any kind of confrontation and to keep a balance with everyone, which makes sense because you don't want a war with anyone. There are even Indian clans who would like to get into war so that they would have more land. Yeah, again, all the political stuff are very interesting and I really want to see how they are dealt with, mostly because I know nothing about politics. I also really like learning about Indian traditions. Some extreme traditions have been mentioned, like the fact that when a man dies and he's married, they would throw the widow, or the widow would willingly throw herself in the fire where her husband was cremated. This, to my 21st century ears, sounds awful, but Indians should be the ones to stop this tradition and not be forced by British to stop this practice. Anyway, it's been an interesting and edifying experience reading this book so far. I have to say there is something missing. I don't know what is it exactly, but I'm not really invested yet. I will definitely continue reading, but I'm not obsessed with it. That's my update. Yeah, I'm actually going to leave you now because I am about to upload a new video on YouTube. I will add it in the thing up here just so that you can check it out if you haven't watched it. I will probably see you tomorrow with more updates. Hi. A lot of days have passed since the last time we talked. It's actually Friday of the next week from the previous clip, so yeah. But I finished Before the Rains by Dina Ferris. Unfortunately, I was disappointed. It wasn't exactly what I expected. I didn't DNF it because I was interested a little bit, but I wasn't invested in the story. I found it underwhelming and didn't really care what will happen. I just wanted to see how everything would be wrapped up. I actually filmed a TikTok talking about my experience, why I was disappointed in this book, and I will just add it here so that you can understand exactly what my problem was with this book. So I'll add it here. I had my first bookish disappointment in 2024 and I wanted to tell you about it. In January, I read Before the Rains by Dina Ferris. It wasn't what I expected. First, let me tell you what it is about. We are in 1930 and the British government sends 28-year-old photojournalist Eliza to an Indian princely state to photograph the royal family. When she arrives at the palace, she meets Jay, the prince's handsome, brooding brother. The synopsis sounds great, and actually we get to learn about schemings and scandals in the palace. We see the complex political situation in the specific Indian state, because we have the British and the Indian royal family trying to keep a balance between the good of their people and this great force that controls them. And we also learn about some rebels who want to see Indians ruling India. So all of those things are very interesting, but I felt that the tone of the book was very underwhelming and I was not invested in neither the political side of the book nor the romance. I mean, oh boy, I really didn't believe that our protagonist were so in love. I was really trying to think why I wasn't invested. I believe that my issue was the way that the story was presented. We have a third person narration and we get the story from Eliza's perspective. Now, Eliza was born in India because her father was British and he was working for the British government in India. Although she cared a lot about India, she was still British. And I think that since we focus so much on the political system and the royal aspect of governing the specific Indian state, I believe that it would be a lot more impactful if we got the story from Jay's point of view, because he is Indian and he cares a lot about his country, not only because he was born there and he knew the culture and all that stuff, but also because he's a member of the royal family. If something happens to his brother, he's the one to rule, so he was born to care. I should also mention that although both our protagonists faced life-threatening situations, the tone of the writing was the same. Like I never got worried. I just expected a more thrilling read. At least I got to learn a bit more about the Indian culture, and that was pretty fun. I'm wearing the same thing that I was wearing in the TikTok because I filmed it a few minutes ago. Now this means that we move on to the next book. I bought this book at some point in January and I'm actually dying to read it. This is a Greek book. It is called Illegal Love by Konstantinos Theotokis. And I think that the story was published in 1977, so it's not like a recent book. Look at the cover. It's gorgeous. I love it. I will tell you what this is about and tell me if this doesn't sound like something that you would immediately want to read and know what happened. We are in a village in Corfu, Greek island, in early 20th century, and we follow a family. They are farmers. The story starts when Stathis convinces his wife Yamato to arrange a marriage between Chrysavgi, a young woman, and their son. Yamato has some concerns, but the story between the two young people seems to go well, and it seems like the marriage is happening. Now, things get interesting on the day that the two families meet, because it is revealed that Stathis is in love with, what's her name? With Chrysavgi, the woman that he wants his own son to marry. I'm just really curious, so we're reading this. It is also a very short book. It's like 100 pages, and as you can see, the font is like very big. So I think that I will start and finish this on this weekend. I'm really excited to learn what will happen. I hope you are as well, because this is what we're reading now. So I'll see you when I start reading. Hello, happy Saturday. I've started reading this book yesterday, but I've only read 20 pages, something like that. And I'm now on page 84. I'm having fun. Let me tell you what exactly has happened. So the book starts when Stathis suggests to his wife that they should arrange a marriage between their son, who is 20 years old, and Chrysavgi, who is a young woman around the same age as their son in a neighboring village. Stathis had noticed this girl and he liked the fact that she seemed very strong. She was a stout young woman and he thought that she had a strong personality. He liked that and he believed that she would help his son become the best version of himself. Although Stathis had claimed that they should wait for his son to get a bit older before they would marry him off. He believed that this match would be perfect, and this is why he insisted that he should get married, even though he was still young and he hadn't even go to serve in the military. And this is important because at some point in the book he actually lives for that purpose. So Stathis convinces his wife to arrange this marriage. This is our first scene, and like a few pages later we see Stathis's family visit Chrysavi's family so that the two young people can meet each other, and if the parents agree they can make it official and start organizing the wedding. Both families had invited a lot of people. It was like each family had 20 guests. I really don't know how they got to fit 40 people in one house. But anyway, in this first meeting is when Stathis realizes that he has strong feelings for Chrysavi. Although he had noticed her before, it was at this point that he was like, whoa, I have a burning passion for this young woman. Stathis is 44 or 45 years old. Chrysavi is like 19 or 20 years old. Although Stathis has this realization, he can't really do much about it because everyone is happy for this marriage. So in the next scene we have the wedding. As the story progresses, Stathis' passion for Chrysavi gets stronger and stronger. His wife has her suspicions. She notices some things that are weird. I don't want to spoil the book, but I think that I should say that a bit later we learn that Chrysavi and Yamando, Stathis' wife, look alike. Another woman sees them walking together and she's like, oh, you look like sisters. Yeah, so Stathis has a type. And also, Yamando mentions that he kind of dragged her out of the house and he brought her to the place that would be their home. So this little comment makes it clear that if he wants something, he takes it, he does whatever he wants. So we are given clues that show that this behavior is not novel for Stathis. And it kind of puts things into perspective. Because of course we see him being tormented by thoughts that he understands that they are immoral and evil, but things only get worse. And I still haven't finished the book, but things are grim and tough. Happiness is far away. As for my criticism of the book, I have a complaint about not the book but this edition, because there are some parts of the dialogue, it's usually in dialogue, are missing. I don't know if you can see, we have this symbol that something is missing. And the language is tough because the language used is a dialect in Corfu, but I don't know what happened and they didn't include some words, because it is clear that words are missing because it doesn't make sense, like sentences are not completed. So I don't know what happened. There is a small editor's note and I'll see if they talk about it, but I was really confused. If I were the editor, I would just write what I would expect to be there in parentheses, but we just have the symbol that I showed you, and the sentences just continue with missing words. I hope I made sense. And as for the story, the only thing that I didn't like, and it might change, is that we don't really see how Chrysavier feels, because she notices her father-in-law weird, unusual behavior, and she has interactions with him that could leave someone scarred. And she also has to think of her own family and her husband's family. Well, we don't know if they are in love, but she definitely cares for her husband. So she's put in this very difficult situation, and if a word comes out, she will be blamed, although she did nothing wrong. I just wish that we had seen more of her mental struggle with this awful situation. This might change because I still have 20 pages left, but to be honest, I don't think that we will get much information from her perspective. Yeah, I'm really interested to see how the characters will deal with Stathis' actions, because he's the one who makes things difficult for everyone. And just so you know, I'm just being very polite and gentle with my descriptions of Stathis' actions. This is because I just don't want to spoil the book, because if you are Greek, I think that it can be a very interesting read. I don't think that it has been translated into English, but I might be wrong, I don't know. I will leave you for now so that I can finish this book. I'll see you soon. Happy Monday! I've got a reading update. I finished Illegal Love yesterday. I really enjoyed it. It was short, but it raised a lot of questions about morality and human nature. Having read the whole story, I think that it was natural for Stathis to act the way that he did. Not that it was right what he did, but he was used to getting what he wanted, even though he knew that he was being immoral. But yeah, he used to try to resist his urges, but yeah, he would always give in. I think that even though this book was short, we got a complete story with a male protagonist that we got to learn very well. I actually learned why there were a few words missing, mostly at the beginning of the book. Actually, it was in the editor's note, and there the editor said that the manuscript of Illegal Love was actually buried among with other works of Theotokis during the Second World War, when Greece was occupied by the Germans. But luckily Theotokis had written his work on a resilient paper and with ink that it was hard to be erased, and this is how his works survive. Of course, there were very few words that were actually erased, and only the ones that the editor couldn't make out at all. The editor put, the parentheses. I hope that this made sense, and I hope that you found this interesting, because I was really surprised to learn all that. Once I finished with Illegal Love, picked up The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. Again, a beautiful cover. Again, this is historical romance, and we follow the forbidden union between two enslaved young men on a deep south plantation, the refuge they find in each other, and a betrayal that threatens their existence. Isaiah was Samuel's, and Samuel was Isaiah's. That was the way it was since the beginning, and the way it was to be until the end. In the barn, they tended to the animals, but also to each other, transforming the hollowed-out set into a place of human refuge, a source of intimacy and hope in a world ruined by vicious masters. But when a fellow slave seeks to gain favor by preaching the master's gospel on the plantation, the slaves begin to turn on their own. Isaiah and Samuel's love, which was once so simple, is seen as sinful and a clear danger to the plantation's harmony. As I said, I started this yesterday. I'm only on page 23, but I can already tell that this will be a heartbreaking story. Besides the forbidden love between our protagonists, the writing makes this book stand out. Let me just read you one paragraph and you will understand what I'm talking about. By the time they finished, the sky was black and littered with stars. Isaiah walked back outside, leaving Samuel to his grievances. This was how he would engage in his own bit of rebellion. He leaned against the wooden fence that surrounded the bar and stared at the heavens. Crowded, he thought, and wondered if, perhaps, the abundance was too much, if the weight of holding on was too heavy, and the night, being as tired as it was, might one day let go, and all the stars would come tumbling down, leaving only the darkness to stretch across everything. This is so beautiful. I love it. And this is a debut novel. Amazing. I'm really excited. But yeah, that was my update. I'll see you in the next clip. I just finished The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. I should start by saying that this took me a lot of days to finish because it is densely written, and I'm just saying it because if you pick it up, you should know that it is not a light read. You need to be concentrated when you're reading this. Honestly, I have nothing bad to say. I enjoyed it as much you can enjoy a book about all the awful things that were going on in plantations. The main focus of the book is the love story between Simon and Isaiah. I'm not sure how you pronounce the name. We also get the stories from other slaves, and it is interesting to see how different everyone's story was and how they were all connected. Yeah, I really don't want to say anything because it is a book that it's worth picking up and finding out all the information by yourself. It might feel very slow at the beginning because we get to read from many characters' perspectives, but I think that it is important because we get to really learn all these characters, and they are all important in Sam and Isaiah's life in a good or a bad way. This book was focused in this love story, but that wasn't the sole message. It had something to say about how divine and humane powers let down black people, or at least this is what I kind of felt. Yeah, I think that everyone should read this, but of course be prepared for some very harsh scenes. I would also like to say that the tone of the book is somber, and this is something that happens in a lot of books that describe the life in plantations for slaves, and I think that it makes sense because with all these awful things, all these tortures that white people imposed to them, life and energy was sucked out of them. So I think that it is a totally justifiable and logical way to present things. So these were my thoughts on The Prophets, and this is the end of this video. I don't know how the end product is, but I hope that you had fun, and actually I hope that you had so much fun that you would like to subscribe, like, and leave a comment so that I can see you at my next video. If you've reached this part of the video, tell me in the comments what book you're currently reading. Okay, I don't have anything else to say. Happy reading, and I hope I'll see you soon.